Reverend Crystal Cox. We're reading Quantum Bigfoot. Where I left the last video off is that I have never thought about channeling a Bigfoot or Bigfoot. I never thought about Bigfoot being some sort of an interdimension. I always thought they're interdimensional or quantum. But I thought there were beings that were quantum. And not necessarily beings that I could communicate telepathy-wise, or if that I had an incarnation in another life, I would know the language. I feel like I have whatever it is that's coming through this book, and the love that I'm bringing through, and the love that's being shown to me, that I have an intimate connection with this energy. And so, I am a forester. I've had lots of different careers, we won't go into them all. But my schooling is forestry. And I have spent a zillion hours in the woods alone. I spent my time in the woods alone as a child to get away from my parents arguing. I would get on my motorcycle and I'd head down to Lake Kootenai, a 90-mile lake in Montana. And I'd, cook my lunches, and I'd visit with tourists and therapize people. Yep, I've been doing it since I was like 7. Just did my own thing. And we were always in the woods, going to get wood, going hunting, going picnicking, going, swimming. And so, an intimate connection with the land. And when I started bidding on forestry jobs with my own company, and I was out in the middle of nowhere alone, you do these different surveys, and you do them a certain distance and a certain direction, the compass. Like, everything is pretty specific between each plot and all that. So, you don't I'm going to go around the bush and I'm going to go around the rock. To the best of your ability, you go straight through. Whatever it is, right? And so I've been in the deepest of the deepest, and I've been, lost one particular night. That'll be a story for another day. Found my people just before dark, but I saw a white wolf that night. I've seen a black wolf, I've seen lynx, I've seen, all kinds of critters, grizzly bears right next to me. I've had that connection, and I feel... Did you see Pete the Magic Dragon with Robert Redford? I feel like those beings, those large magical beings, are in the forest, and that 411 is part of that. And I believe because our government has covered it up, and people like the local police and stuff, they're like, oh, I don't know, and somebody else comes in and takes care of it. I feel like it was part of some agreement with alien beings to experiment with humans, or for given permission from our ancestors or our higher self in order to say, okay, I'm going to live there for 7 years, and then at a 7-year-old, I'm going to be on a picnic someday with my family, and I'm going to come back here. They go back into that dimension or whatever. Because the way that they disappear in the 411 is there's never any remains. They're just gone. And it happens in all the national parks, and it's a big deal, and everybody's like, nothing's happening here. Anyway, so pretty incredible, this book. I feel just a massive amount of love. My heart feels like it's going to burst, and I feel like there's someone here with me. And I'm getting a Harry and the Henderson sort of deal, because whatever, it's exaggerating to me, a big cheesy grin, and that's what's making, and then kind of like tickling me energetically, and it sent love. And I'm glad I did all that on camera. It'll be interesting to check out later, because be interesting if you can see anything, right? Alright. So, associated sounds. Besides the rapid chattering among themselves heard by some humans, they will clack rocks together rhythmically. They will do the same thing with wood on wood and tree knocks. I've heard one of them clacking rocks and another answering with wood knocks. I personally believe this is their method of signaling each other, and perhaps signaling in a way of specific action. I know, I'm still going to read the book. So, as I said earlier, that's not what they were doing. They were doing a form of communication, but they're also doing something within their own frequency. And it's not really as simple as the simpletons make it. I'm just going to leave it at that. I have a lot of information coming at me that I'm not sure. It's unexpected. Okay. A code for messaging back and forth. Okay, in 2016, during a trip into the Canadian wilderness, the First Nations guide who I was with said they believe the wood knocking and territorial, and when it's heard, it means for them to retreat so they don't go any further. If the natives knew that, and that was like handed down generationally, then that a Bigfoot had communicated that with them. I'm being shown, and again, if the author's watching this someday, I'm not trying to disrespect this work at all. I'm just being shown that they communicate telepathy-wise when they want to. So if someone was near them or their babies and they didn't want them there, they would telepathize them and make them either afraid or make them turn back. But odds are it's gentle. It's like they just kind of think it's their own thought because we're a lower frequency. We're not as an advanced being. So they're not necessarily manipulating us, but they're like, don't come in here. And we can do that now too. I mean, practice with that yourself, where you like look at someone and you're like, don't come over here, don't come over here, and you send this energy, and then they kind of veer off if it's focused and pure intent. So I'm getting that if they want to say something, you'll know. You'll feel it. So now I'm being told, okay, what was I telling you at the end of your truck? What were you feeling? In my story with my sister. I don't see how that color of red could exist. Well, did you feel afraid? Like really afraid or more curious? I was curious. I felt calm. I felt love. My sister was afraid. So now, this being with the red eyes that I told in my story has grabbed my hand and is taking me somewhere. I feel like going into this later off camera. So just give me an overview. Family. This is family. Okay. Let's see. So they have different types of hooping sounds. I believe each type of hoop may represent something different. All of this might be sending a specific message to contact one another for positioning, warning, or... I get a high-pitched frequency in my head when I'm just stop reading. Okay, let me just look at it again so I can remember the question you sent. Okay, so that sending a specific message to contact each other for warnings. Okay, so we're not primitive. We're not so primitive that we need to send each other a frequency or a noise that humans can hear. So we are higher advanced beings. We send, like the frequency I just sent to your head, we would send that and someone would back out of an area. We communicate with each other through telepathy and other energies. We do not need rocks and sticks to communicate with humans. Those noises are when we want to program the human or do something in the physical to ground that frequency to almost like a translator. You humans would know it as some sort of a translator. As one spoke English and one spoke Spanish, you would have this machine that would translate. We were using your primitive rocks and sticks to translate. And remembering that rocks are alive and rocks help us communicate. And sticks are not alive, but they vibrate. Using them both together helps us bring our high frequency to a low frequency to plant this information into the trees and the plants and the humans in the area. A little slower next time. Okay, well, this is new. Okay. The hoops could also be mistaken for an owl. I know stuff. The amplitude, however, should alert the researcher to either an owl or a Bigfoot. Oh my God. Christopher Murphy put together an outstanding book, Know the Sasquatch Bigfoot. Yes, the book has some good information. And in that book, he gives an account of Albert Ostman from 1924. It's probably online if you want to Google it. I don't know why I'm shushing you. Okay, Ostman said that he was taken to Toba Inlet, BC, Canada, by an old Indian and dropped off. He was looking for gold, hiked for days. Then one night he was carried away in a sleeping bag for several hours over rough terrain. BFG! You know, if you don't know that, that's the big friendly giant, Ronald Dole. He said that he was held captive by a family of Sasquatch for 6 days. John Green's book, Sasquatch, The Apes Among Us, right, to educate him, they're telling me, has a detailed account of Ostman's captivity. Ostman said, I heard them chatter some kind of talk I did not understand. For more on Ostman and my expedition, see chapter 21. So you guys can probably Google it. It's Ostman. Vocal ability. The one thing I have difficult getting across in my talks is how huge their amplitude can be. Right? And different humans can hear different frequencies. Like when I talk about the Mandela effect or moving realities, our frequency, someone can be sitting right here next to me and they are on a different frequency that so they won't necessarily see what I see. Right? And so depending on who you are and where you're at in your life and your mission on earth and your work here and the work you've done on yourself, you might hear a different tone that Bigfoot, and they're not called Bigfoot, Alpha Zeta, ALPHZETA. That's what I'm getting. I lost my previous train of thought. Okay, so, right, their vocal range, right, so you can only hear them if you can hear them, kind of like a dog whistle, which, what I just got in my head a few minutes ago. There's this certain sound that you can hear, so depending on who the human was that's in the woods, each person might have heard a different sound. Whew, okay. Their vocal range can be above and below the human range. This ability suggests they are or can be great mimics of other animals, including humans. Okay? Don't even start. Okay, they would never mimic the humans. Okay, they are an advanced race. We are in school here on Earth to learn our emotions. We cannot be trusted with telepathy. We cannot be trusted with instant manifestation until we've went through the Earth cycle. And once we went through all of this, master our emotions and master our thoughts and be trusted to create reality and learn how to use telepathy in certain ways, then we will have this higher advanced knowledge and language. They're not using this sounds to mimic people and animals to communicate with them. If they want to communicate with a deer, they'll just do it. Instant translate, whatever they want to commute to whatever. That's what higher beings doing. In order to bring that into this earth realm and this 3D realm, that's when they use the other primitive sounds. So maybe some of the noises too are like the rocks and sticks and help bring that sound to whatever they're communicating with, whether it's a tree or a deer or a human or whatever. But they are not, and there's no good or bad, there's no lower or worse, but they are not lower than humans in evolution. Absolutely not. No. On the next page are graphs comparing Dr. Kurland's findings on Bigfoot pitch and vocal sound length tracks to humans. So this is Dr. and then it's Kirlins if you want to look it up for Bigfoot, big Alpha Zeta pitch. How did you put a word right in my mouth? Okay, vocal track links to humans. Please note, Dr. Kurland's findings clearly demonstrate the Sierra Sounds recordings mostly fall outside the 95th percentile of normal human male speech. On several occasions, I've had witnesses tell me they've heard their name being called. Right? Also, you can send, when you're a higher being, I can send you a specific thought that'll make you think you heard. I have heard my name called. People hear things said. Or like sometimes it'll call you and it'll alert you to something. It saves people's lives. It brings your attention to whatever, or something communicating with you. But they're not doing anything vocal. They are sending a frequency that's manipulating, but not in a negative way, your own sound and thoughts, so you think you heard that. But everyone else around you wouldn't have heard it. That's what they're showing me. He's showing me. You're showing me. Are you Alpha Zeta, or Bigfoot's called Alpha Zeta? Bigfoots are called Alpha Zeta. I don't have a name. It's a frequency. Yeah, I wouldn't dare hear it. They're going to blow up my head. On several occasions, I've had witnesses tell me they've heard their name called, or their dog's name, when no other human was around. These statements are not unusual. According to Scott Nelson, cryptolinguists, they have a complex language of their own. Yes, according to the little baby, the master at language... So a master linguist is like here, and Bigfoot, their communication style is like zillions is up there. Okay, how big do they get? Okay, as big as they want. In snow at Sierra Camp, we had small 9-inch prints alongside 18-inch prints. Accordingly, when one was spotted walking by our shelter, it was reported to be over 8 feet tall, and it had an 18-inch print. That said, and away from our shelter area, we stumbled across 4 huge 25.5-inch prints, one pictured below, that had a distance between them of 13 feet. Results by a variety of calculation methods suggest that those prints were made by an Alpha Zeta at least 12 feet tall. There was no indication from the prints that it may have been running. Something's putting that word in my mouth in place for Bigfoot, so just know that moving forward. If I hadn't been there and seen it with my own eyes, I'm not sure I would have believed it to be real. We all kept quiet about that one for a few years. But since then, I've heard reports of people who claim they saw King Kong. It had to be 12 foot, they said. I know, okay? King Kong's a fictionist ape. And he was malicious, too. Okay, when interviewing 2 seemingly credible men in Oregon, they told me they'd seen King Kong. It had to be 12 feet tall. They said 2 other hunters from a completely different area in California witnessed one for several hours and said it to be 10 feet tall. Why is it that a lot of folks can believe a creature 8 foot tall, but 12 is, well, unbelievable, inconceivable, and unfathomable? 8 foot tall or 12 foot tall being so big, you'd think these whatevers, oh God, this was just the interview, would have been scientifically exposed by now. Science. No, they cannot be exposed until human beings advance enough to see them. Okay? If I'm on if I tune into Country 104, I can't hear the classical channel. I can't tune into Big Fork unless I'm of a higher frequency, or they do something like the tree knocking and the different things to lower their frequency so that the human can see them or hear them in their physical world. You have to be so animated. Christ almighty. Okay, don't even get into Christ. Okay, why is it that a lot of folks can believe... Okay, blah, blah, blah. When Albert Ostman gave his interview to John Green, he estimated the weight of the older female. Yes, their opinion over. Which was over 7 feet tall, to be 500 to 600 pounds. The weight of muscle mass is heavier because of the density of the tissue. Right. Very, very dense interdimensional tissue. Okay? I used to hunt, in Montana. We all did at, age 2? No, but at 14 or whatever. By the time I was 18, I was cutting up, I skinned the deer, did all of the stuff myself, and I was cutting up the, the venison steaks, the bastards. The backstrap, all that, right? So I'd cut up a couple of deer. I think I did some elk meat. My friend up the road had a bear that was bugging him. And it was a relocated park bear. And so I think it was a grizzly bear. Might have been a brown bear, I don't know. But we had loaned him a gun, a 38 special. And we're like, just use it to scare him or whatever. Don't take a 38 special after a bear, right? You're just going to tick him off. And so the bear would come right up to him outside and like flip their plates, like try to eat. They'd be eating dinner, and so he wasn't necessary. The park bears are so bold because Glacier Park's just over the mountain from where I live, and people would come and feed them, and so they were more used to that. So when they were relocated, okay, long story short. Anyway, he did end up killing the bear. So I was cutting up a venison, which is deer meat. And he brought some of it down for me to cut up for him. And bear meat is so dense. It is unbelievably dense compared to deer meat. I've had shark meat once in Montana with some friends that really liked it. And that was kind of a denser. It's hard to explain, but it's almost like a whole bunch of energy is packed into a really small spot. And every fall, the deer, they eat oil and dog food, and they'll eat anything that they can, not the deer, the bear, before they go into hibernation, right? So there might have been some of that stuff, but I just remember the incredible difference in cutting up the deer meat, light and fluffy deer, but just easy cut, you go against the grain on some things, you go across the grain, there's an art to it, right? And cutting up the deer, and then when I went to do the bear, it was like, tried to use the same philosophy, and it was just very different. Well, that was a lot of information about... Okay, so, tree knocks. I've never heard of anyone who has ever seen an alpha zeta whacking on a tree. Tree knock. Yeah, many folks, me being one, have heard that type of sound many more times. Okay, it's not always a tree knock they're hearing. It's it's a literal vibration from a pounding in their chest, not by their hand. I have done healing work with someone once. We did an initiation of opening the chakras, and they had something right here, buzzing, in their body, almost like a robotic thing. I think that at a higher being, that it can reflect it. The alpha zeta, can reflect, can project that noise out of its frequency field by will, too. Okay, so just about all the researchers I know believe that knocking on a tree with wood-on-wood sound will attract an alpha zeta, and some of them claim to have heard a wood knock in return. I have heard and done it and recorded the rhythmic sound of tree knocks and thoroughly believe the sound came from an alpha zeta, a Bigfoot. But I wonder if they compared the frequency of both knocks, what that would be like. Never giving it a second thought. I actually got a glimpse of one after some wood knocking. It sounded like a signaling back and forth and messaging to each. Okay, right. We've already talked about all that. However, I did not actually see the wood knocking and the Bigfoot at the same time, but it wasn't the same evening. And later that evening, the UFO landed. And then later that evening, on some unrelated. Again, I'm not dissing this book. I just have something communicating with me very strong. So, Mr. Moorhead, I think you're awesome. I'm not dissing you. Okay, yes, he's one of them. Yes. Oh, man, no. I don't want to tell him. I might think about it. Give me a few months. These people who claim seeing Bigfoots going into or coming out of a tree are not alone, okay? The trees are portals. And I experienced that in the woods a lot. And when they saw them down, sometimes they're still there. You stand on a tree, a live tree sawed down, you stand on that stump and you can feel it. And so if they have seen them went into a tree, if the tree was big enough, they would have seen them go through the tree. They are interdimensional at will, plus they also, fun with people. And they can disappear to the human by just changing their frequency. Okay. One gentleman who I met in a Bigfoot hotspot told me that he'd seen them in that area on many occasions over the years, but always up in trees. Were they up there merely observing him, or could there be another explanation? Do trees play a part of their elusiveness? Okay, yes, they do. They are. The trees... Some sometimes the trees are ships. The trees are a vehicle, interdimensional vehicle. They move through dimensions with the tree. Like the tree may not have been there. I mean, can you say that that tree was always there, or was it just there when you saw the Bigfoot in it? Okay. On countless occasions, batteries have been known to go dead when these beings are around. High frequency, yes indeed. For many years I've wondered what role, if any, energy has in their coming and going. Everything. Energy has everything to do with everything that we do, everything we create. We are quantum. Bigfoot's quantum. Energy and frequency is every single thing about the Bigfoot who wants to be known as the Alpha Zeta in my communications. Hoofda. Okay, energy. A recent discussion with a few of my colleagues made me seriously consider this. If Bigfoots are interdimensional, they are. It may take energy for them to break through dimensions and change their vibrational frequency. Right on! Could they be re-energizing from a tree? Yep. But the tree is a ship, and it came with them to energize them. It's their charging station. It's their home. It's their vacation house. It's their ship. They come here. Yeah. This is kind of fun. I had no idea it was going to be like this. Okay. Thank you. A recent discussion with a few of my colleagues made me could they be re-energizing from a tree, or they've absorbed energy from the next interlude with our dimension? Plus, on occasion, their appearances happen during a lightning strike. That's because the frequencies changed in a flash and they can see them. It's a frequency change. Suggesting again that energy is involved. Maybe that's why they are rarely seen in the wild, not on a tree, but in a tree. Something to ponder. Oh my goodness, I'm going to start that there. Oh my goodness, I'm going to stop that there because, yeah. So, my email is reverendcrystalcox@gmail.com if you'd like to email me. In the description of this video, I will put a link to the Sounds of Bigfoot, Alpha Zeta, and the, gosh, now I'm kind of curious to maybe check out some channel. Okay, I'm not going to check out any channels. I'm going to channel. Anyway, God bless you all. Bye for now.